listen, it's the stiffest penalty that any team has ever taken or given, and we accept that. We're going to move forward in a positive way. I'll let the commissioner determine how he handles the rest of it.
All right, so the manager is gone, the general manager is gone, punishment imposed upon the Astros. It kind of reminds me of the bounty scandal from 8 years ago in New Orleans, but Sean Payton stayed and is still there. And Mickey Loomis stayed and is still there. But in Houston, a total and complete house cleaning. And, Peter, here's the thing that first resonated with me when I saw this. And I had heard about the sign-stealing scandal that caused this to happen. Alex Cora, the Red Sox manager, is supposedly in line for significant punishment as well. In this age of legalized gambling, this kind of thing cannot happen because not only are you screwing over your competitors, you are affecting the integrity of the wagers that are being made on a now legal basis. All the years it was illegal, nobody cares. As I said yesterday at PFT, it's like somebody going to the cops to complain they tried to buy marijuana and it was actually oregano. You're not going to do it, and if you do, they're not going to care. When it's legalized and when it's tainted, that's when you have a problem. Whether it's the creation of an agency that will be responsible for overseeing professional sports and ensuring integrity, like the Securities and Exchange Commission does with buying and selling stocks, which is essentially gambling, or at some point they may create laws that will make it easier to prosecute people who are involved in cheating in professional and collegiate sports. That's the concern that every league and team executive needs to have in the aftermath of this baseball sign-stealing scandal.
The best thing the NFL did for this to try to basically cut it off at the pass, is when they allowed the defense to have a player with the speaker in his helmet so that he could hear the defensive signals. So the way that the Patriots theoretically were able to match up signals for what was run in the game previously by a team. So now that theoretically can no longer happen. The next level, I believe, is working with guys on the sidelines who could have the smartwatches. And that way, remember when Ray Farmer, the Browns, was caught talking via texting to guys in his own coach's box during the game? Now, I think it could go even further. Imagine you've got one of your practice squad guys on the sidelines and he's got a smartwatch, and somebody can be watching the game from upstairs, texting instructions, thoughts, whatever, to somebody on the sidelines with a smartwatch. That, and I'm not saying that happens, but I'm saying that to me is next level that the NFL, and not only the NFL, but other sports have to worry about.
Yeah, and I think the real concern here at the heart is ensuring that the NFL is doing everything in its power, and every sports league doing everything in their power to make sure that the outcome of a game, the final score, any objective measurement that could be the basis of a wager, is something that is the product of only the performance of the athletes, the skills and abilities of the coaches, and nothing more. Officiating errors, I think, is a greater responsibility than ever to minimize, if not eliminate those. And any type of cheating needs to be dealt with harshly and severely. And, you know, the problem is when you expose cheating, you attract the attention of lawmakers and prosecutors. And I think Rob Manfred, the commissioner of MLB, tried his best to walk this tightrope by saying, well, there's no evidence it affected any games. Are you kidding me? Of course it affects games. If they know what the pitches are going to be, they have a hell of an advantage over any other batter that's up there trying to guess and read the seams of a ball that's moving 80 miles an hour. So, yes, it helps. And they don't want to admit that it helps because I think, Peter, the big concern is when you acknowledge that people are messing with the integrity of the outcome of that wager, that's when you start having a real problem with the government. Whether it's Congress, whether it's the district attorney, whatever the case may be, these sports leagues are going to have problems if they have issues like this in the future. And one of them is going to be the tipping point that blows it all up.
Yeah, I think right now this is a clarion call to every competitive venture, especially sports teams, sports leagues, And I will not be surprised if there was a memo sent by either Roger Goodell or Troy Vincent or Jeff Pash to teams, to all 32 teams, that this is a reminder. Let's make sure that our house is in order and this never happens to us.
Yeah, and, beyond that, and this is where they need to be very proactive. And we know from history that the NFL sometimes is a little reactive. They wait for the bad thing to happen, and then they figure out how to keep it from happening ever again. I don't think you can take that chance in an age of gambling. Think of all the ways, once gambling is legal, once there is in-stadium gaming, and, there's wagers based upon whether or not a play is going to be a run or a pass, and who on the sidelines knows what the play is going to be, and is somebody signaling to someone in the stands so they can just sit there and get it right 8 out of 10 times. You don't want to go 10 out of 10, then it becomes obvious. But I think those are things they need to be thinking of. All of the temptations to affect the outcome of a game, to take advantage of inside information, you have to be very creative in your brainstorming of all the things that could go wrong and come up with methods, Peter, that are aimed at keeping those problems from ever happening, not waiting until they happen and say, how do we keep this from happening again? Keep it from ever happening in the first place.
And I think the one other thing, Mike, that you referred to that I think is vitally, vitally important is that these leagues think ahead, okay? And not just think, well, geez, that was a really severe sanction. Well, okay, well, what's next? Everything is the same. We read all these stories now about how, the Russians are getting ahead of us in terms of protecting the sanctity of the voting booth. And now we have to worry about that. And so, in my opinion, these leagues need to think 2 and 3 years ahead.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Instead of thinking in the moment and dealing with the mess once the mess is on the floor and you have to get out of.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.